Friday. Mike Arishan here with America's New Clothes with my man Derek.
What's up? How's it going? Happy Friday.
Lots of good stuff going on. So today we're going to talk about some reactions to the town halls that we saw last night. I don't know how many people were able to catch both. I'm sure a lot of people were frantically flipping back between them. I want to talk about some of the Hunter Biden updates. Very interesting stuff. Oh, yeah. Pretty deep new stuff breaking even as we've been popping on here. So lots of stuff to talk about. So Derek, did you lay a little higher on the Biden or the Trump debate?
Yeah, I focused more on the Biden debate, which I guess according to the ratings had more like 2 million more viewers, and of course ABC and Jonathan Karl and them are running with that. Talking about obviously there's more interest in Joe Biden, so therefore the polls must be correct. My take on it is that a lot of guys are probably or people are trying to figure out, one, is he going to be asked about Hunter Biden, right, and the pay-for-play schemes? Is he going to be asked any tough questions? That type of thing. And having watched the debate, I thought Biden did a good job relative to. He was lucid, right? He seemed coherent. He rambled on endlessly. And Stephanopoulos let him get away with it on probably 90% of the questions. Occasionally he'd be like, well, hold on, let me, talk about that a little bit more, question you about that. So I think that from that standpoint, I think Biden was able to do what he wanted to do. In contrast, obviously, with Trump being hassled at every turn. And I didn't watch the Trump debate. I saw, excerpts from it and clips on, various social media sites. But I can definitely talk to the Biden town hall for sure.
Well, no doubt. Well, the other thing is if you actually look at the some of the questions that Guthrie was asking Trump in Miami, I mean, she was super combative. A lot of people didn't feel like she was fair in any way, and so what I noticed was she was really trying to just ruffle Trump's feathers and drive him into things that would really get him fired up. But I think most people who have been critical of Trump, with his kind of bombast, I think because she was being so critical and he was so hyper focused on her, I think they were pleased with the way he held it together. She seemed to be really, really intent on him doing some sort of big disavowalment of this Q movement, which he I did see that. He moved a little bit further into, look, they're against pedophilia, and that's, I suppose that's a good thing, right? This whole idea to paint the Q movement, regardless of what you think of it. To be clear, Q is just a message board. If Antifa is an idea,
so is Q.
Well, then Q is an altnet forum. I mean, it really is simply a series of that are impartial, Democrat versus Republican, and I don't see any call to violence. This notion that there's something anti-Semitic about it is stupid, totally preposterous. I mean, the fact that they've gone after, had harsh words about Epstein and Weinstein, simply a function of the fact that these guys are sexual predators, nothing to do with their, heritage, ethnicity or religion. Well, I think case.
Right. I think that where the anti-Semitic thing comes from is that if you read, when Q posts something, right, and you go back and then you read all the, there's all kinds of links underneath, numbers or whatever. Right. If you read those, it's insanity with how many anti-Semitic things there are, which lets me believe that it's either being hacked, right, or it's people not hacked, but it's people trying to paint the movement in something that it's not.
That's right.
So any of the Q boards you go to, the people who are posting never talk about anything anti-Semitic ever, right? They're never talking about violence. They're never talking about white supremacy. Like all these things they get painted for is just wrong. It's just, and that's the shell game, right? You keep looking over here while I'm moving all the other stuff around, but here's where I want you focused. I mean, the Q movement is, if anything, it's ask the questions, do your own research, come to your own conclusions. You know, you have to some degree, a lot of these people have to be led a little bit, just to even get them to start asking the questions.
That's right.
You know, you can talk with people who, when you mention the "you ain't black" thing by Joe Biden, they've never heard it. They're like, what are you talking about? And you have to get it on your phone and say, here, you don't believe me? Hear him saying it.
Right.
So the mainstream media is not giving you that stuff. And so all Q is doing is, in a way, impartially imparting that on you to say, hey, just ask your own questions. You're not going to be shown everything. You know, it comes back to like the movie V for Vendetta, right? I mean, the movie is very representative of what we're going through now. Right?
Absolutely.
They tried to control the narrative. There was the anonymous, right? They created a movement. It was nonviolent, right? But what did the government want to do? We have to shut them down. And it is out of control now when you're taking everybody off the boards. You're banning New York Post. You're going out of your way. And asking the question of Trump last night, I think, one, it drives more people to the movement, because most people are like, what is this Q thing that keeps coming up? So they're going to go search it.
Yeah, right? But I see DQ on Facebook are people that I'm almost certain have never seen a single Q drop. No. Right?
Of course
I mean, if you really want to denounce Q, go read all 1,000 and make up your own conclusion. But just because you're being told to renounce this, and the whole notion of the Q, the guy in the mail carrier, stuffing ballots proved to be a QAnon. I mean, they're going to do anything they can to make the movement appear. Of course, the whole Pizzagate shoot up incident that happened in June. Prior to the first Q posting, so that couldn't be a situation where somebody was incensed enough to move on this. I think that requiring it's ironic that it was incidental this day, right? That Congress got together yesterday and said, okay, we got to decry. I mean, it's the Lady Death protest too much. All the other stuff that's out there, keep this thing down. And you and I have follow what the Q drops are, but in no way are we going, oh yeah, this is truth, this is legacy, this is absolutely the real thing. Because almost in the genius of the way that Q writes is Socratic method. It's simply is this possible? Is this relationship between Eric Schmidt and North Korea? Is this suspect? Here's this. Here's that. I mean, they're encouraging the citizen journalists. So that was the big thing I saw out of that. And I thought for my takeaways of the Biden were that, look, this guy only reading something. He's looking up.
He was programmed.
They had made it such that the raking of the members in the Philadelphia theater shooting us was so vertical. The raking, the actual angle of the audience, and there was very few people out there. I think only people that were going to be able to question, because otherwise it was like 8 people between each seat. And when he's responding, looking up at them, and he had a really long bit on energy that I thought to myself, okay, he's either taking all the right drugs to be able to complete this thought. He's got something up there that he's looking at, and he was intensely looking at it. And of course, teleprompters are usually really close. You can actually see the eyes moving if you're looking at an anchor person. But if the words are far away and his eyesight's still good, if the words are far away, you wouldn't the micro movements of the eyes. And so that was my first. Of course, the questions were totally softball, and there was no question about Hunter or any of the stuff that's blowing up this week. And it felt scripted. I mean, each thing, it was like they made it so fireside chatty, like, oh, let me it brings me back to a time I was, and it seems that each facility with lying. He's like, oh, when I'll probably go back to being a professor of
go back to the Well, I think
I was doing before 1972.
I mean, of course, we arrived at last night because of obviously the debate was canceled, right? So the commission now is pretty much just irrelevant going forward in any other future presidential debates. They rendered themselves useless because now you had two men, healthy, sitting on stage, opposite stages, obviously, opposite networks, but having a conversation, right? So they kept pushing this fear porn, and it came back to bite them. And I think that also when you look at the Steve Scully incident, right, he lied, right, tried to say, oh, I got hacked, which I guess is the second or third time he's done this in the past. The FBI goes to investigate. He's like, oh, sorry, never mind, I didn't lie. He gets suspended from C-SPAN. He's in the pocket for Biden. Everybody knows it. Guthrie was a former, I think, Al Gore, or her husband, or it was either her or her husband who was on Al Gore's staff, right? She's died in the wool Democrat. And then you got Stephanopoulos, who freaking worked for the Clinton Foundation and the Clintons for years. I mean, I mean, but I blame Trump for that on the NBC thing, because if you're going to agree to that, right, unless he wanted to say, look, I'm going to go into the lion's den, I know I'm going to get, you know, arrows and quiver from everywhere. So, but it's unbelievable that his campaign would not go to an OAN. If you gave an OAN a platform, one, Fox News is blown out of the water because they did deny Brett Baer and Martha McCallum to want to do one, right? So if he goes to a platform like a Newsmax or an OAN, I mean, everybody's got Pluto now. Everybody has TV to where they can get OAN or Newsmax or something. He would have given them a platform that then everybody's gonna be like, who's this group? Let's go check these guys out. So agreeing to the NBC thing to me was, he knew what he was going to be getting into. I still think his campaign and making those decisions, I mean, and maybe they sat around the table and went through all of this and came to this conclusion and made the right decision. I don't think they did, but you know, I mean, it is what it is at this point. And so now you have to look back and say, I held my own. And so,
well, I mean, what is the possibility of a just debate off the table? I mean, that would be phenomenal. I mean, I can't imagine. I'm sure Joe, for his viewers, is going to have Trump a little bit more than Biden, but I think he would be fair, and I think he would want to see I mean, he's used to doing a deep dive 3-hour interview with people. That would be a really healthy way to talk about. I think a lot of the stuff that Biden's saying is just, you know, it's just flat out lies, you know, and the way in which he, you know, so the big question that everybody wants to know from Biden is, would you pack the Supreme Court? And he weasels out of it by saying, well, it would depend on the way the current administration handles the confirmation of Barrett. And and to me, it's sort of like, well, look, we know they constitutionally have a right to do it. The guy's president for 4 years, and luckily that's the one thing that Stephanopoulos kind of pushed on him. He still ended up with this total milquetoast pass the buck answer, which was, oh, if they handle it, it's sort of like if you don't go through, if we can make sure that only 49 senators come up with a yes vote for Barrett, and it falls flat, well, then I'll tell you, okay, that I'm not going to pack the court. The hardcore progressive left wants him to say, yeah, we'll pack the court and we'll dominate this nation for the next 100 years.
Right. Well, I think the interesting take, if you listened to the nuanced response by Biden, I think what you come away with is he's going to pack the court, because Amy Coney Barrett's going, unless, I mean, there's something out there that will shock the entire world on her, she's going to get, I mean, you can't sit there. I don't care if you're a middle of the road Democrat and what we used to call blue dog Democrat type of person, and you're not sitting in your home going, this woman is brilliant. She handled these people in these questions brilliantly. Now she's going to be questioned by the full Senate, but this is the Judiciary Committee. How a normal suburban person or even urban person or whatever that understands, right, and knows, right, okay, I'm still in the middle. I may be left of center, but I'm still in the middle. Doesn't look at her and say she should be on the court. I mean, her temperament, right, for everything they blamed Kavanaugh he didn't have, she has. And they can't tear her apart. So he's going to pack the court because she's going to get on. And if you notice at the end, I forget what his exact statement was. I wrote it down here somewhere. But it was, Well, it depends on how the process plays out. Well, no, it's an easy question, Joe. Are you going to pack the court or no? And when he says, well,
I've
just
never been
it
a
depends
fan
on the
of
process.
a fan
It's
of
like,
or pet to get the Bernie vote.
well,
It's insane. Well, I mean, I honestly thought Biden looked as good as he could look. I mean,
absolutely, I
he
do.
had
I agree.
these stories that came off really roundly, like it was really thoughtful. And to me, I thought to myself, this is nothing but a scripted little love fest. I mean,
Right.
and then and then
Well,
the transgender mom talking about her, or talking about her youngest daughter being transgender, and I thought, God,
right.
we're not willing to let our kids even get through puberty and with some questions before we really just encourage them to. I feel
Well,
like
look,
we're really
if
losing
they're
it.
8 years old, if they're 8 and 10 years old, and he believes they're okay to go ahead and tell, you know what, it's going to make my life easier. That was his quote. Well, if it's going to make my life easier, I'll go out. I want to be transgendered. One, if transgenders are complaining so much about the system being against them, clearly they're not making a decision that's going to better their lives, right? They're going to say, my life is going to be hell when I make this decision, because transgender people are ridiculed, like she was saying, they're being killed. So why would you allow an 8 or 10-year-old child to make that decision? We might as well go ahead and put them in the workforce, right? Go ahead and give them banker jobs. Let them be investment bankers. They're smart enough to know that they're going to be able to make a decision that's anti-science. And for as much as Biden talked about science and the COVID-19 response, he talked about COVID and the fracking response, but I guess science and biology then ceases to exist at the womb. Soon as the birth happens, biology doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it's science. Then if you're born a boy or a girl, that's biology. And Shapiro talks about this all the time, and he rips people apart when they come in and be like, well, what about this? What about this? And he comes back to it's a mental health issue, right? If you're born a male or a female, and once you make that decision to go the other way, and I was meant to be born in a male's body, but I'm a woman, so I'm going to be a male. I mean, the guy from Johns Hopkins who headed up the mental health war, he said, when I've done these sex changes, and he stopped doing them. When I did these sex change surgeries, 3, 4, 5, 6 years later, they came and said it was the worst decision I ever made.
Yeah.
Well, if you were actually born that way, then you're in your natural body. So now it was a decision. Now you hate the decision that you made for the decision you previously made. So now you want to go back to the decision that you shouldn't have made in the first place.
Yeah,
it's just
I remember that, and that's a pretty old testimonial that guy did. Well, I mean, for me, look, we have tons of Republican transgenders in our conservative community. I'm sensitive to their plight. I mean, I'm 100%. It's that kind of thing. Totally your choice, and I don't.
Of course,
I don't know any employer that is discriminating against that. I mean, obviously, rugby is going through a big thing right now where they're looking to say, are we going to allow males who have transitioned to female be able to compete in rugby?
Right.
And this is each of these sports has had their moment. Obviously, Martina Navratilova going through her, she's gotten a lot of pushback from the left for saying, this is not, we got is not good for women in sports. But I think it's a huge deal that we don't force. I see too many liberal parents almost pushing this choice on their kids because it's almost like another badge of potential kind of victimhood that they can put in their quiver. And I think really
intersectionality
has just become a way for everybody to find their unique victimhood. It's like find your unique set of victimhood circumstance that gives you. It's super dangerous.
Yeah,
but we got to talk about. We're waiting too long to talk about all the stuff that's coming out.
Okay,
this Chinese video. I mean, I think this is huge. Right? I mean, is this not the biggest? I mean, this ties right. We've seen all the pieces, right? We've seen,
right.
Okay, we know he gets the $1.5 billion investment. So, that's a $30 million, on your 2 and 20 fund management, right? 20% of the profits, 2% of the total allocated assets. Total allocated assets, in this case, 1.5 billion, of that is 30 million a year. That's a pretty hefty little tick for
nice little scrape
fund that comes in. And then we knew the Burisma stuff, and we knew the Devin Archer stuff and the Pelosi son stuff.
Right.
But this China video all together, didn't it, a little bit, or started?
Yeah, it's starting to come together. I think now there's some indication that it's going to be it's 4.5 billion that they were taking from China, and there's going to be more evidence coming out now that it specifically shows that Joe Biden and Hunter Biden used their name to profit in China, and that China owns them. Supposedly there's information that says that China has, or a group in China has sent hard drives to the DOJ. A pro-Biden person at the DOJ tried to halt their dissemination inside of the DOJ, but I guess somebody said they got to them and got it actually to Donald Trump. So I don't know if that's Rudy Giuliani or if that actually specifically means got it to Trump. I mean, clearly it's got to go through all his, his gate to get to him. But that there's going to be that what we've seen so far pales in comparison to what we're about to see. I don't know what was going on at the end of the day with the stock market, but it dropped dramatically within the last 10 or 15 minutes, right as this news was hitting the wire.
Wow.
So, yeah. So I'm not sure, if that had anything to do with it, but the news was released that Hunter's former business partner, Corey Bevan, has flipped. And from prison, he has contacted Peter Schweitzer and another gentleman and has turned over his Gmail account to them. And upon that news, all of a sudden the market went down. Now, could it be coincidence? I don't know. But, one thing that if you go back and look at a lot of the Q boards and you start piecing everything together, the one thing he does say is, when are there so many coincidences and so many that it just becomes mathematically impossible? And if you do start linking if you start putting a lot of the pieces of the puzzle together, you do start to realize, why is Pelosi pushing the 25th Amendment so hard?
Right. Yeah. Well, because she also was this hard drive, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But suppose it was sent to her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Suppose it was sent to her to say, hey, we got you. And, the information supposedly says, you do everything you can to win, because if you don't, everything's coming out. Now, will they do that? No, because it ruins their chances for the next election, right? But if they've got the dirt on them, that's why you think about it. Why push mail-in balloting so hard? Right? If masks and social distancing work, and we're doing in Georgia, 2 weeks ago, Columbus Day, started early voting, in-person voting. So if you've got basically 4 weeks to go vote, why push mail-in ballot? You can social distance, you can wear your mask. If those two things work, then it's safe to go. I mean, I just went to the grocery store. Everybody's wearing a mask, right? All the loons are still wearing their masks. It defies logic as to why they were doing a lot of things that they're doing and bringing out their entire arsenal.
Yeah.
So
it's like a Biden bumper sticker.
I see you thinking there. What's going on?
No, I mean, I think, well, these three dissidents that supplied this material, right? I mean, these guys are playing both sides because they're already outcasts from Xi, right?
China, right? CCP,
But they're so this information, they're looking at it either way, whichever way the election goes, they're covered in doing that.
Correct.
But your sentiment to me was, look, I mean, is already. I mean, we've been using the term Biden's a sellout to China as a very term, as in, okay, he's not being enough of a pushback in terms of the trade, the issues that we've been talking about for years, and the unfair trade practices and the currency manipulation. Those have been total above board, just policy decisions, nothing corrupt, nothing nefarious, just poor choices with respect to China.
Right. Yep.
This means that Biden being owned by China means so much more.
Absolutely.
Everybody says, everyone says, oh, well, prostitution is the oldest, the oldest business in the world.
Yeah. Just wait.
I would argue that blackmail is the oldest.
Yeah. Well, and
is, the oldest way to get power.
Yeah.
And that's what this is all about. There's not that much pedophilia running around. I don't think the pedophilia instinct is in humanity to the degree to which you're seeing its prevalence today. I think rather it is used as a blackmail tool because it's so unconscionable. Yeah. It's being used for people to get to a certain level of power, whether it's in the music industry or in the media business or in politics.
Right.
The number of people have been confronted with a Faustian choice, which taken, fallen for. That is in fact where the blackmail evidence comes from. It's from that act.
Well, and that's right, and that's what they claim that they're going to be using against him. Aside from the documents that show that he has this ongoing back and forth, alluding to that they're using his name, and they're just getting to him because of Joe Biden and who they can be introduced to and control and associated with. But supposedly there is pedophilia that's coming out, that he did some very harsh things to very young Chinese girls. That's what these dissidents say is on the hard drive. So there's the stuff that we've seen that we've seen from Rudy Giuliani, but on, I guess, one of the drives is the pictures and stuff like that of just the prostitutes or whatever. On another drive is G and I forget the other guy's name, Wang or Wiang or something like that. What they own inside the United States, just what their wealth is, where their wealth is tied to and associated to being inside America. And then the third was
architecture project.
Yeah, right. And then the third is the supposed pedophilia and very hardcore. And I hope they're wrong. I hope that they are wrong, because I don't want to think of anything being done to young girls, young boys in general, whatever, in that fashion. And if they've got that, though, it's over for Hunter.
Yeah. Well, and while we're on the subject of that, the fact the District of New York had the Wiener laptop as of October or end of September 16
last year. Yeah.
No, even before the election, the finding of this Wiener laptop.
Oh, right. Oh, the Wiener laptop. Yeah.
Before the last election, and which ostensibly is a superset of all the emails, right? All the life insurance stuff, all the Huma Abedin crossover, and all the Clinton emails. It's on the 300,000 emails. This is the thing that made the New York police officers sick to their stomach when they saw it.
Right. It's like 9 of them are now dead.
And where is that? With Barr? Is it with Durham?
Yeah.
Has it been squashed? That's not to be squashed. That is not to be
right. No.
This stuff has to get out. And if in his infinite mercy, Trump is going to wait till the end of November, wherever the chips fall, to take action on any of that stuff. That's the sort of thing that we're going to say. But that needs to be given to the people, because otherwise we're sitting. If Biden wins, we're sitting in an administration who they're gonna spike that football. There's just they're not going to do that. So this is I am just hoping that all of this.
I still think
term stuff is a head fake. There's nothing going to happen before the election. You gotta. The truth must be known to people.
Yeah. Well, the truth will definitely come out.
Will be reported.
Well, I do think that there's going to be something that comes out that the mainstream media is irrelevant as they are today. They say to themselves, if we don't cover this, we're finished. So, there's a reason why Twitter and Facebook are censoring and banning everybody and every story that comes out that is in any way. Glenn Beck and them they just they sent out an ad that just said, hey, tune in tonight at 9 p.m. I think this was last night or the night before, because we're gonna highlight and show election fraud. They got that ad banned and flagged simply because they mentioned fraud. tied to voter. It's like, I mean, again, if you're getting to that Orwellian of a scope, right?
Yeah.
Then the people aren't going to get the information. If you think, again, as we were talking about yesterday, if you think the mainstream media is going to tell you, and Twitter and them are going to allow you to see the news post November 3rd, you're crazy. I mean, this is not getting any better unless somehow Ted Cruz and Republicans strip the GOP or strip the Section 230 from them and force them now as being a public utility. So you have to now, you can't censor. But they're going to do everything in their power. They have to control the narrative. They have to let make sure Democrats win. It's voter suppression in its utmost, right? I mean, with regards to being free advertising, a free way to do it without physically going through signing ballots or doing illegal things on ballots. This is the way to do and control an election. They're election meddling, period, end of story. There's no rational person can say otherwise.
Nobody, I'm not seeing people, I'm just not seeing the folks on the left go, you know what, I really think it's sort of like, it's this, hear no evil, see no evil.
Right.
And that's really concerning to me. I mean, people should be really fearful of the idea that, just because it's helping your side right now, you mean a free press. And that's the great irony is that, he's going to kick out Jim Acosta from the White House press room.
Right.
We are entitled to a free and fair press. It's like,
yeah,
you guys have already, jumped the shark on a free and fair.
Oh, but
you're not in any way off,
adding
value to, what people really should be caring about. It's just all this nanny
right.
boo boo kind of stuff just to trip everybody up. And the hatred and the vitriol is
unbelievable,
insane. So
yeah.
I mean, so what do you think? Do you think there's going to be another surprise today?
Oh yeah. I don't know if today I guess is the, maybe the Corey Bevan jumping ship, right. And flipping on Hunter. That's the, news is breaking now. There's other news I was seeing earlier today that said, if you think Ukraine was the only source where the Bidens were winning, think Moscow. Now, won't this be an irony? Again, like we were talking about yesterday with, blame the other side of what you're guilty of. If you're blaming Trump for doing a quid pro quo with Ukraine, and it ends up being that, no, it was you, and you were the one profiting from Ukraine. Oh, he's tied into Moscow, and it's Putin. Oh, no, never mind. It's actually Biden's that are tied into Moscow, right? And this Russian oligarch. If you at China, right? I mean, if you start putting all these pieces of the puzzle together, and again, rational people sit down and say, let me logically think about this. If it wasn't Trump tied to Ukraine, right? We went the whole impeachment scheme, which we know he wasn't, right? I mean, nobody could find any information on it that tied him to it. Everybody was let off. Tied to Russia, right? Nobody in the Trump campaign got busted because of Russia. It was tax dealings they did in 2003 or 2006. Maybe they lied to somebody or whatever, but they could find no evidence tying them to Russia. So now if all the evidence is that Hunter and Joe Biden in particular, are tied to Ukraine, Joe Biden's tied to China, and Joe Biden is tied to Moscow, is what's breaking now, you have to start saying, you were just trying to keep everybody away from what your sins were.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling.
Look, the world, right? The David Bowie song.
Yeah.
Sold the world. It's a very lucrative position to be in. If you saw Hillary doing it with one, who knows whatever else she was doing to get donations to the Clinton Foundation, and
right.
And now we see Biden doing it, and we have to wonder the legacy of all of these representatives. I mean, we need term limits now.
Big time.
How these people, both in Congress and all over the place, are being bought off. The district attorney is being bought off by Soros. The folks who think the salary for a congressperson is going to jump from $175K a year to $200 something, and yet these there for for 20 years, and suddenly they have 100 million in the bank. I mean, sure, there's some people who, you know, come in with a fair amount of money, but
Right.
I look at it and I go, okay.
But that's the thing.
I mean, why? What we're so concerned about who takes no salary, we don't care at all about people who start with nothing and end up with huge pockets as a result of their grift. So how and their grift is simply directing our taxpayer money, and you know, and I don't know. I think super unpopular. I see a lot of people with student loan debt all excited. Can we hold the flames on this cancellation of student debt? It's like, you know, it took me, you know, between 12 and 15 years to pay off my Stanford loans. And I know finished paying off their loans. And so do we just all of a sudden say, oh yeah, we're just going to write off all those loans for everybody? I mean, you can't do these sequentially and chronologically. You can't just do this free stuff, unfair thing. It's going to create, you know, now we're going to be so divided if certain people are getting,
big time,
you know, completely different than others. This is crazy. I mean, the capitulation to the leftmost agenda and being beholden on all these ways. I can't imagine America being around for much longer than 10 years if, in fact, Biden wins. That sounds nuts, but you know, maybe in a puppeted spirit, but in no way with the sovereignty that we, you know, have demanded.
Well, again, for the people, and I understand the left believing that, you know, they claim that Trump is a dictator, right? First of all, if you go and look at what a dictator does, there are a few key things that he doesn't do and can't do, right? One is control the media. If anybody in their right mind thinks that he controls the media, they're out of their mind. You have to educate, right? You have to go and indoctrinate the kids, right? He's not the one going through and making the education policy. Progressives are. So progressives are the one indoctrinating your kids. He's not putting military in the street if you disagree with him and going door to door like the brown shirts did and black shirts in Italy and Mussolini's fascist Italy, and saying you have to fly this swastika sign or we're going to tear apart your business. Who is doing that? Antifa. If you don't say Black Lives Matter and you don't put a sign in there that says Black Lives Matter, or you don't take down your police signs, we're going to wreck your business. Right. There are things that are going on right now that people, there are good-minded people on even the far left, right? Those people need to sit down and actually look at the puzzle and put the pieces together. It is not Donald Trump that's a dictator. I'm not saying that Joe Biden's a dictator, but the left craves power so badly that they will be a dictator. Mm-hmm. If they're talking about packing the courts, adding new states so they can get more senators, putting in 25th Amendment so they can get rid of whoever is the head that they don't like anymore. That's what dictatorships do. And you can't go. So now they're targeting, Cuomo is targeting the Orthodox Orthodox Jews in New York, right? He's threatening to shut down their places of worship because there are more than 6 people or whatever are gathering. They had a guy going through yesterday taking photos inside their windows. Right now, is this because the Orthodox Jew approval rating for Trump is at 83% now? It was 54% in 2016. Yeah. So if it's up to 83% now, there's 600,000 of them, right? So if you just assume 50% of them vote, right, and you use that 83-54 difference, he just picked up 60,000 votes in New York and Chicago, wherever they're domiciled. So if you look at what the left is doing of trying to control everything from religion to guns to, and why do they embrace abortion so much? I mean, almost every question to Amy Coney Barrett was about abortion. Are you going to overturn Roe versus Wade? It's like, I mean, Kamala Harris wants abortion up until after you actually give birth to the child. Right. That if all of a sudden you change your mind, you know what? I thought I wanted this kid, no more. Right. She had the baby that she's claiming that woman and the doctors now have the right to say, sorry, we can't give it any life-saving care whatsoever. That's demonic.
Yeah. Viable births. It's insane. Well, yeah. do you think it's you think it's eugenics, or do you think it's for the black market organ trade?
I mean, we've seen enough evidence. Yeah, I mean, we've seen enough evidence over the most recent years that says that they harvest the organs, right? They do. There's a whole bunch of stuff they do with it. Whether you believe in the adrenochrome thing or not, right? They're doing something. There's no reason why they keep pushing this. You've got to, we've got to make sure abortions are mandatory or allowed up until and after, even after birth. It's like, this makes no sense whatsoever. And I don't know what their reasoning is, but they love abortion so much. I mean, they're so impassioned by it that it just, again, it does not make any sense from a human perspective. To kill your baby, it makes no sense.
That's the one issue vote. One issue vote. I mean, some people will say their one issue vote is, are we fighting global warming or not? But I mean,
climate change.
I mean, at this point, our air and water is cleaner than it was before we took office. So it's not a trajectory against. We're actually abiding by the current terms of the Paris Climate Accord. More so,
we're just not part of the. We're just not part of it.
We're just not. We're just not signed on to a multilateral agreement that makes us. But we're doing that through innovation. We're not doing that through command and control. We're doing that through incentivizing the right kinds of behaviors. Keeping on the tax credits. So I don't know. I mean, I think the abortion thing. I mean, who knows? I mean, there's been 60 million babies aborted legally since 1973.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I hear different numbers, but yeah, roughly 60 million. Now, interesting too about Planned Parenthood is obviously, as we all know, right? It was founded by Margaret Sanger, who was racist as the day is long, and originally, the idea behind abortion, according to her, was called the Negro Project. Right? Mm-hmm. They wanted her and her ilk thought that minorities and blacks in particular, she wouldn't have called it that, were considered quote unquote weeds. Right? We got to get rid of them. Right? And then here's Hillary Clinton, embracing. Margaret Sanger is one of my heroes. Right? I mean, the feminist movement is. I mean, in a way, if you just link it together, feminists, even black feminists, are racist, right? They want to do away with their own race. They believe that they're inferior, and so they're embracing extinction. And it's just, if people did their history research with an open mind and followed the page after page after page, you can't come to a conclusion otherwise.
Yeah, it's so nefarious. So nefarious. Yeah. Nefarious. They've got them self-flagelating, and then they've got, with white fragility, they've got Caucasians completely apologetic and of their own race, which is in itself, it's an kind of racism. So I don't know.
Right.
What do we have? They have sowed the seeds of discord in our nation to a point where not a lot of people are thinking clearly anymore. And the show, we're simply just things in ways that say, look, let's break it down simply and see what it is that is going on here. Because agree, faced with a number of different scenarios, we would know the way forward, and we would have ethical agreement on the morality of it. But for some reason in tribalism, and I get called out for saying, oh, well, why do you say the left wants or the right wants, we're just all humans. That's we're not the ones that started this kind of divisiveness, and I'm not pointing a single person and saying you are left.
Anger. Right.
I mean, this field of thought, because I don't see a lot of crossover. Remember, you used to see people say, oh, well, when it comes to elections, I'm fiscally conservative and socially pretty liberal.
Socially, right.
Stuff's gone. I mean, there's simply nobody who's going, oh yeah, I would choose so-and-so, I would choose Trump for the following reasons, but, or if these things are more important to me, I'll choose Trump over Biden. There's none of that. It's down the middle. No. It's where you consume your news. And the idea is to make sure people are operating on their actual facts and break down the
Right.
how are we doing this to start this problem? And anybody who comes to the middle, I mean, look at what's going on with Ice Cube. It's just
Right.
he reached out
Oh
to
man.
they want to do a contract with Black America. He's doing
Right.
tons of things to feel like there is equity, for communities of color.
Right.
Looking to say, they don't want a handout. They don't want a special project. They want to and obviously, in the world, I mean, we've got a California that's saying you have to have minority representation on your board with X number of people and or female and or it's sort of like it's no longer who's right for the job. It's no longer a meritocracy. It's literally pandering to this intersectionality.
Yep. Well, let me ask you, since you're in California, what with this, I don't know if it's on the ballot or if it was voted on in legislature about basically doing away with the no preference, right? So now you can discriminate.
Yeah, Prop 16
against anybody.
Yeah,
Prop 16. I mean, that to me is insanity.
Rolling over in his grave, but he's still alive. The African American gentleman who was the head of the UC during the time when they said, look, affirmative action, we have to be able to, it's not shooting the student to do this, but we're rolling that back. So basically, we know private universities have been doing this forever. Private university picks their ideal class. They can say,
But Prop 16, if I'm not mistaken, is across the board in California, not just schools. It's for hiring. It's for state employment jobs. It's across the board. They're doing away with it entirely.
Across the board for state job. It's if you take a job with the state of California or to a UC school, it goes for anything government related to the private per se. Board of directors for a company, right?
But I look at that and think that who it's targeting is actually targeting the Caucasian, because now they can say, sorry, we're not hiring you, right? Because we want to have we want to not equal by any means, but almost because of our white guilt, we need to make up for it by leaps and bounds. So we're only going to go hire transgender people, whatever, females, male, or blacks, Hispanics, whatever. And it's allowing for racism, it's allowing for discrimination, but who's it going to be used against?
Harvard lawsuit, right? This is related to Harvard. I mean, the community can be intersectional. The community it hurts the most is Asian American.
Sure, absolutely.
The absolute highest test score, and then they can be squashed into so relative to their Asian friend and peers that are also Asian, they have the highest bar to reach, and then with a capping of test scores, and now this year has gone to being a pass-fail year. This is probably the craziest time because there's very little academics to actually be able to evaluate students on who are applying to college, and because everybody's got a fluff pass grade. And everything has gone to this, basically show me how woke you are in. Yeah. So, I mean, I any high school, I would just, my heart would go out to them. It would just seem it's such an unfair time for them.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in, man. We need to circle back up on Monday, see what's breaking over the weekend and how the Sunday shows handle the discussions about the town halls and the Hunter stuff. I keep coming back to this, when people, again, as we're going into November 3rd and people are like, it's just a normal election or whatever. Yeah, I'm going to vote against or vote for. Obviously the hatred for Trump is driving a lot of the Biden supporters, because I haven't met one Biden supporter that loves Biden and believes in his policies or whatever. It's more or less orange man bad. But I keep coming back to, and I've got it pulled up here, Senator Harris, Kamala Harris, who's obviously running as vice president and will be president within days after the election or after the inauguration. There's no way they're going to let Biden stay in control. I hate to break it to you, everyone, but that's why Pelosi's pushing the 25th Amendment. But she said, and I quote, "And once he's gone," meaning Trump, "and we have regained our rightful place in the White House, look out if you supported him and endorsed his actions, because we'll be coming for you next. You will feel the vengeance of a nation. No stone will be left unturned as we seek you out in every corner of this great nation, for it is you who have betrayed us." They're not going to play nice, guys. They're not going to reunite the country. Again, you may think that Trump's dividing us. If you want to see division and hyperspeed, bring them in.
We in no way, everybody, supporters are open arms. We'd love to be able to rationally tell people the great things he's doing, everything from opportunity to First Step Act to right to try to what have you. And now here we are, and if they get into office, they're going to come and actually enact a purge, huh? Is that what we're doing? Yeah. I mean, that's
what we're getting to.
That's the scary element of it. And I before I get into a serious conversation with somebody on the other side of the aisle, I go, let's level set here. You wouldn't have my beliefs, would you? You wouldn't have me.
Correct.
You wouldn't have me financially or physically or in some
if I disagree with you.
Because if we can't agree to that, then you're not coming at me. You're not. If this is not civic discourse, this is a way for me to step on a nail here, and or I think it's super scary, and you only get to vote your way into once.
Yeah, exactly. You don't vote your way out of communism, right? For quite a while anyway. They usually end up being very bloody.
Look at who's Guaido, the upstart that got all these folks to rally with them. They're not replacing Maduro.
Right.
He's not getting out.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. Even though they're
majority
opinion to get him out. Look, guys, we're on our country on the ground.
Right.
You don't get to
exactly.
You don't get to wait. It's a one way passage. You go into socialism.
Yeah.
Come out of it. So and the stage is set. The stage is set to do that, and that's scary.
I think as you and I talk often, right? I think everybody should get their popcorn ready, because I think things are about to really, really heat up.
All right. To talk about, make sure.
Yeah.
People who, living and breathing every little new beat that comes out, we want to make sure we talk about it, guide people to the right resources, and hope people can share stuff with us that we haven't seen.
Yeah, absolutely.
My brother.
Yeah, happy to talk about anything.
And
yeah, man, have a happy Friday. Have a good rest of your weekend.
All right, brother. Cheers.
We'll see you, man.